Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. This is part 2. This is 3 photos with seriously disturbing backstories. Sorry, I'm phasing. Okay, I'm back. First one was, if you haven't seen, first one was Adam Walsh, which is upsetting. And then the second one was MS Estonia, the ship, which I had never heard of. And it was very uncomfortable. Okay, well, before we get started, I'm not going to... There you go. Click that thumbs up and subscribe. Click. I mean, it's that easy. Completely free. If you could do that for me, helps out tremendously. If you want to donate to the channel, click on the thanks button. Donate whatever you'd like. Then if you request a video, your name sponsors that video. All right, let's get into the video.
Nicknamed South Korea's Black Widow, Yeon Min-suk is considered one of the country's most depraved criminals. Born in Seoul in 1976, In-suk showed signs of being a textbook narcissist from a young age. She was demanding, entitled, and utterly indifferent to the people around her. If a luxury item caught her eye, she had to have it. If she craved a certain food, she had to eat it immediately. And if she wanted something that wasn't hers, well, she simply took it. As a student, she showed just how far she was willing to go to get what she wanted. In one instance, drugging a friend with sleeping pills just to steal her credit card and go on a shopping spree. Money always mattered more to In-suk than loyalty, a trait that would come to define her. After graduating high school in 1995, In-suk ran away from home and began a career as an insurance planner. Those who knew her claimed that other women were jealous of her tall frame, slender figure, and most of all, her striking eyes, comparing her to actress Park Shin-hye. And In-suk certainly knew how to use those features to her advantage. She had a habit of flirting with men, charming them into buying her expensive gifts, even when they couldn't really afford to. Before long, she met a man known as Mr. Lee, an employee at a nearby moving company. The two quickly began dating, and after a whirlwind romance, moved in together. Not long after, In-suk became pregnant. Despite being in their early 20s, the couple decided to get married. There was just one problem. While Lee wasn't poor, he wasn't exactly wealthy either, and In-suk had expensive taste. After the birth of their daughter, In-suk moved back in with her parents, leaving Lee to raise the child by himself. Then, in 1998, when her father passed away, she wasted no time in taking his credit card and spending his money on frivolous purchases, all without consulting her mother or siblings. This caused a major rift in the family, and In-suk was ultimately forced to move back in with her husband and daughter. Despite working extra shifts and barely spending any money on himself, Lee could never satisfy In-suk's hunger for luxury. Their arguments over money became a constant battle, one that would only escalate in the years to come. But then, on February 17th, 2000, tragedy struck when the couple's 3-year-old daughter fell down the stairs of their home and died. It was reported as an accident, but coincidentally, it was around that time that In-suk's criminal activity took a dark and calculated turn. 2 months after the loss of her daughter, the supposedly grieving mother visited a psychiatrist, complaining of encroaching dark thoughts. She was prescribed lorazepam, which in high doses can cause memory loss, and Alpram tablets, known.
I could understand losing a child if she, had nothing to do with it, losing a child and then having those types of thoughts. I'm sure I could get that. If she had nothing to do with it. If she had nothing to do with it. I don't believe that she didn't have anything to do with it. It's also very rare that a woman leaves her child and the husband to move back in with the parents to avoid responsibility. And you would think that the guy would have picked up on the fact that she needs, look at the teeth. that she needs that she needs luxury. She needs money, and that would be a red flag to somebody who needs you to spend on them like that.
To induce blurred vision, muscle relaxation, and, in very high doses, coma. But In-sook had no intention of taking the medication herself. Instead, the moment she got her prescription, she took out 4 separate life and accident insurance policies on her husband, ensuring that she was listed as the sole beneficiary. You see, since her husband had a visual impairment in one eye, he was prone to accidents, and In-sook planned to use that to her advantage. That very evening, she crushed up her pills and slipped a dangerously high dose of the powder into Lee's drink, knocking him unconscious.
This is going to sound very stupid. I didn't see that part coming. I'm a fool. After I was just talking about red flags and yet I didn't see this part coming, I am a goddamned idiot.
Her witch's brew not only worked, but left Lee completely at her mercy. Over the next few weeks, In-sook continued to secretly drug her husband. Lee grew increasingly concerned that he was blacking out for no reason and waking up with bruises, concussions, and amnesia. Little did he know that while he was unconscious, his wife was deliberately pushing him down the stairs or slamming his head on the floor, inflicting just enough damage to file fraudulent insurance claims, pocketing a few $100s each time. But a few $100s wasn't going to cut it, and so, in May, she decided to up the ante. After knocking Lee out once again, In-sook took a sharp metal safety pin, gently approached her sleeping husband, and pricked him in both of his eyes, permanently blinding him. This wife from hell had done her homework. She knew that aside from death, the highest payouts came from claims involving permanent blindness. While Lee recovered in hospital, In-sook played the role of the devoted wife flawlessly. Medical staff marveled at her.
I felt that. I felt that in my eyes. Like, I want to close my eyes as though my eyelids are, pin proof or bulletproof or razor proof or any kind of, it's like people who are scared that the boogeyman's coming, so they get under the covers because, that's going to protect you. I just instantly want to just do this when I'm around her. But then I couldn't see what she was actually about to do to me. Wow. I don't want this to sound rude, but I think this lady's kind of a bitch. I could be going completely overboard, and I do apologize if I'm wrong. It's 50-50 right now. But I think she's a bitch.
Dedication, thinking her to be an angel by her husband's side, unaware that she was weaponizing the halo around her head. Despite the suspicious pinpricks on Lee's eyes, and the sudden influx of cash in In-sook's bank account, no one even thought to question her. After all, she had the perfect disguise. A trustworthy face, a soft voice, an innocent demeanor. Even her own in-laws believed her to be nothing short of a saint. For 2 years, In-sook meticulously staged accident after accident, managing to collect a total of 58 insurance payouts. Because of her previous experience working at an insurance company, she knew how to strategically spread out the policies across different providers.
Wouldn't that be a red flag? The working at an insurance company. I'm not saying people who work at insurance companies are bad. I don't mean it that way. But wouldn't that? Well, I guess it wouldn't. It'd be because then it means that everyone at insurance companies would be guilty of something. That's not fair for me to say that. I apologize.
To avoid detection and tracking, and because the doctors always agreed that there was nothing suspicious about Lee's injuries, the providers couldn't deny her claims. As far as doctors were concerned, Lee was simply a blind man who frequently tripped in the kitchen or fell on the stairs. During those 2 years, In-sook lived the high life, splurging on shopping sprees, indulging in Seoul's vibrant nightlife, and burning through Lee's insurance payouts like pocket change, all while her human piggy bank lay in bed at home, trapped in permanent darkness. But when the money began to dry up, In-sook escalated her cruelty. While Lee slept, she poured hot oil over his face or stabbed him in the stomach, each time convincing doctors, family members, and even investigators that he had done it to himself. And strangely, they believed her. Eventually, Lee's condition worsened due to complications from his injuries, and he passed away on March 25th, 2002. After her husband's death, In-sook collected a hefty 34 million won life insurance payout, equivalent to about $200,000. Now single again, the 24-year-old decided to invest in her future, but not by opening a savings account or buying property. Instead, she set her sights on finding a new husband, one whose life she could eventually cash in. Just 1 month after Lee's passing, In-sook went to a nightclub where she met Mr. Hong, a former athlete from Dongdaemun-gu. The pair fell in love, and before long moved in together. Hong's friends and family were immediately charmed by his new girlfriend. "The moment I saw her, I was shocked," his brother later recalled. "Wow, she's beautiful," I thought. Wherever she walked, people turned to look. With makeup, she looked sultry and alluring. Without it, she was pure and innocent. From head to toe, she was covered in luxury brands. Hermes, Prada. Little did anyone realize that behind the designer clothes and practiced smile was a cold and calculated monster. One afternoon, In-sook drugged Mr. Hong, knocking him out as she had done to Mr. Lee. Then she pushed him down a flight of stairs, fracturing his coccyx. While he was still in recovery, In-sook slipped out to the district office, alone, and secretly registered their marriage. Now listed as his legal wife, she was entitled to the insurance policies that she had just taken out on him. Then, history repeated itself. After becoming pregnant with Hong's child, In-sook started drugging him regularly. In an almost unbelievable act of cruelty, she pulled the same horrific trick, taking a safety pin and piercing both of his eyes.
Okay, somebody's got to pick up on this now, right? We have 10 more minutes in this video. It should be ending at the 27-minute, 45-second mark. And then they realized that this is what she does, and she went to jail and then was beaten to death. Right? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm 51% sure she's guilty.
Even more unbelievably, nobody realized that the same woman who cared for blind Mr. Lee before his death was now responsible for Mr. Hong's lost sight. Had they seen that pattern, had they put the pieces together, then they could have prevented what came next. While Hong recovered in hospital, his parents came to visit. Aside from his lost vision, he was physically healthy, and all things considered, seemed to be in good spirits. All the while, In-sook sat dutifully by his side, giving an Oscar-worthy performance, playing the role of the devoted wife. But after his discharge, things took a sinister turn. Hong began frequently calling his mother, complaining of a constant, unexplained pain. In-sook had secretly been injecting him with a mysterious substance, one which slowly rotted his flesh from the inside. Looking back now, I think he knew, Hong's mother later recalled. He started calling us more often, asking us to come and visit, and sometimes he even asked me not to leave. Every time he said that, she was there with him. On February 12th, 2003, Hong mysteriously passed away. To silence any lingering suspicion from her new in-laws, In-sook orchestrated a soul wedding, a ceremonial marriage between her and the recently deceased Hong. However, after giving birth to their son, she cut all contact with Hong's family, severing any remaining ties and walking away with a generous insurance payout. But just like before, the money didn't last. After blowing it all on designer brands, beauty treatments, and lavish parties, In-sook found herself in dire straits once again. She knew that another husband's sudden death might raise suspicion. So, instead, the Black Widow decided that her next victims should be her own flesh and blood. Using her newborn son as a bargaining chip, In-suk managed to worm her way back into her mother's life, convincing her to forget about past betrayals and weaseling her way back in to the family's Namyangju apartment. Then, on the afternoon of July 26, 2003, In-suk poured her mother a cup of pomegranate juice, smiling as she handed it over. "It'll be good for your health," she assured her. You can guess what she had slipped inside. While her mother lay unconscious, In-suk took a syringe and pierced her eyes.
Alright, sorry about that. I was getting tired. I had to try to fix that glitch.
4 months later, she pulled the same sickening stunt on her elder brother, knocking him out and then pouring acid onto his eyes. In both cases, In-suk filed fraudulent insurance claims in their names and pocketed the payouts. But even that wasn't enough for her. After all, lives are more valuable than eyes. While her brother lay recovering in the hospital, she tried to inject poison directly into his IV drip, a move that thankfully failed. After a long period of radio silence, Hong's mother tracked In-suk down at the Namyangju apartment, hoping to finally see her grandson. However, when she arrived and saw In-suk's mother and brother sitting in darkness, both as blind as her son had been, she knew for a fact that Hong hadn't passed from natural causes. But though she tried to alert the authorities, they failed to act. In December 2004, In-suk secretly sold the family apartment for 95 million won. But when her mother and 2 brothers started asking too many questions, she knew that she had to act fast. Well, she had already received a down payment, so her solution? Burn the entire apartment down, with all 3 of her family members inside. Of course, she wasn't about to commit arson for free, so before carrying out her plan, she took out a fire insurance policy on the property. This time though, her plan didn't go as expected. Although they suffered serious burns, all 3 of her family members miraculously survived. Now homeless, In-suk exploited the kindness of her housekeeper and babysitter, Mrs. Kang, convincing her to let her stay at her home. But when Mrs. Kang understandably asked her to leave 3 weeks later, In-suk responded in the only way she knew how: by setting the house on fire. The only difference was, she hadn't set this blaze out of greed, but instead out of spite. The flames incinerated Mrs. Kang's husband and left both the housekeeper and her children severely injured. But unbelievably, In-suk wasn't finished yet. Days later, she went to the burns treatment facility where Mrs. Kang and her children were recovering, bringing with her a can of gasoline. In-suk tried to set fire to their hospital room. This time though, CCTV cameras were watching. For the first time, police finally launched a proper investigation into In-suk's actions. But when questioned, she gave them an utterly bizarre explanation for why she started the fire, claiming she felt driven to do so because she could see her daughter's spirit through the flames. Though they continued keeping an eye on her, the authorities chose not to detain her at this point. Even while under investigation for attempted arson, In-suk committed further crimes, such as sneaking into the house of a friend to commit theft and blinding an acquaintance who had lent her some money and who had the gall to ask for it back.
I'm up to 52% guilty. You know, they're alleging a lot of things. I don't know. She looks like she's probably not guilty. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this all just sounds like hearsay to me.
Her son also passed away around the same time, officially from Kawasaki disease, though it's worth noting that Kawasaki only has a 0.01% mortality rate in South Korea, so it's suspected that she had simply had enough of paying for his hospital fees and poisoned him. On April 19th, 2005, In-suk was finally arrested. Her long list of charges included slaying 3 people and blinding or burning 7 others. She was never formally charged in connection with the passing of her own children. At the time of her arrest, officers found her in the company of yet another man, one she was actively trying to lure into her web. During her interrogation, In-suk put on a theatrical display, dramatically pretending to faint in an attempt to garner sympathy. When that didn't work, she went a step further and wet herself. It was during that very round of questioning that officers snapped this infamous image of In-suk. For years, it was the only photo of her made available to the public. Following the Miryang Middle School incident, South Korean authorities had implemented strict laws to protect the identities of even the most heinous of criminals. As a result, news outlets were banned from publishing any uncensored images of her face. It wasn't until 2024, nearly 2 decades after her arrest, that an unedited version of this photo was finally made public, alongside other previously blurred images of Yeom In-suk. As if the South Korean police didn't have a bad enough reputation before all this, the detectives working In-suk's case couldn't help but focus on her looks during interviews, with one of her interrogators saying, "She has the kind of looks that any man would fall in love with at least once," and another chiming
She's attractive. I'm going to drop it down to 50%.
in. "I used to see a lot of celebrities, but this is the first time I've seen such a beautiful woman." Investigators also praised In-suk's intelligence.
I will say this. If she were to kill like 6 or 7 more of her own children, she would be on thin ice with me.
Saying that anyone who could evade capture for 5 years must be brilliant. Though, let's be honest, In-suk may have been skilled in the art of deception, but it wasn't her intelligence that kept her out of prison.
Might have been? Might have? That's a terrible word to use. She was. She's a terrible human being, and she knew what she could use. She knew what she had, and she knew how to use it. You don't have to be smart when you are a good-looking woman and you are trying to steal people's money. Now, would those looks have carried her into her 40s and 50s? Maybe. Maybe not. She would have had to develop a better skill set once her looks started to fade and start to think about things and start saving, because she would know that this is probably not going to be forever. Probably, yeah. No, she would probably do this forever.
For so long. It was police incompetence. Before her trial, authorities had In-suk take the PCLR psychopathy test, which is traditionally scored out of 40. In South Korea, a score of 25 or higher is enough to classify someone as a psychopath. In-suk scored a perfect 40. Some experts speculated that she may fit the dark triad personality type, a rare combination of subclinical psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. In court, In-suk tried every trick in the book. First, she pleaded insanity, attempting to use her diagnosis to her advantage, but ultimately she was deemed fully competent to stand trial. When that failed, she switched tactics, claiming both of her husbands had beat her and that she killed them in self-defense. That strategy didn't work either.
If that was true, she would have come forward with that immediately. It's always used, but it's always used, after 4 murders.
Then she weaved an intricate story about how she needed the money because she was actually hooked on some expensive substances, and so she shouldn't be held fully responsible for her actions.
Yeah, called shopping.
The world's smallest violin echoed through the courtroom. Finally, in late 2005, a then 29-year-old Yeom In-suk was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. She chose not to apologize to her victims or their families. Today, In-suk is serving her sentence in the Cheongju Women's Prison, where, according to reports, she complains about the unbranded clothes and cheap toiletries she's provided, and often gets into fights with other inmates.
I wonder if she's single.
Poetically, she's said to have lost an eye while doing so.
Good. She's a pirate bitch now. That's it, right? Okay. Oh. For anyone who cares. Today's Super Bowl Sunday. So this video will not be immediately released. But breaking news right now, the Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers if you're an NFL fan. The Jets now coached by my my Detroit Lions former defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. So, nothing to do with this video. Yeah, I'm gonna bump her up to 103% guilty. It's amazing how I'm not going to say it was bad police work, which it was, but it's the sole responsibility isn't on them. Doctors, insurance companies, there should be some kind of protocol where they can say, okay, look, she's had 2 husbands, both of them went blind. Something. There just has to be something better. Some system or something where a person like her can't fall through the cracks. But I mean, she did work in an insurance company, so she kind of knew where the cracks were. But yeah, she's just a terrible person. Breaking news. I'm breaking that. She's a terrible person, in case you didn't know. Okay, well, I'm going to end this here. EOM in Souk. Oh, was that her name? Yeah, that was her name. I just kept thinking the Black Widow. Oh, anyways, I'm just going to end this here before I sound stupid again anymore. Well, hope you enjoyed. Not actually enjoyed, but you know what I'm saying. Hope you enjoyed the video. Lazy Masquerade did a great job. So until next time, have a good day. Have a good night.